Where am I? There I am. What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Football Game Show brought to you by Front Yard Fantasy here on Better Sports Network. I'm your now visible host, Simon, joined as always by my co-host, Joey, right? What's up, Joey?
I'm doing good. I was 100% ready to ventriloquist the show. I was like, let's go. I didn't even need explanation. I was like, we're doing this. All right.
Well, guys, joining us today, we have our great friend Nate Marcum coming on the show to help us out with some Dynasty Quarterbacks tiers. For those of you that do not know Nate, he's the content director over at Fantasy and Frames, and you can find him hosting the Shooting the Gap podcast and on the Fourth and Frames pod. Dude is an IDP pro. So if you're looking for some help in that area or other fantasy football and baseball needs, head on over and follow him at Nate Marcum. Nate, thank you so much for taking the time to come on with us today.
And you guys know I'll always take time to come on. One of my favorite shows to jump on. You guys obviously make it easy, but then most importantly, make it fun, as they say, right?
Man, and we are talking some fun topics today. We got some probably some contentious quarterbacks left on this list because I think there's a lot of disagreement on quarterback value in Dynasty right now. So this is one of the best times to talk quarterback value. We got some people in the chat ready for today's show. Dame in the chat saying, howdy, howdy. What's up, Dame? Welcome in, my friend. JL joining us from the chat. Hi, friends. What's up, John Luke? We got Mr. Scampers, our favorite chat cat, with the what's up, visible FYF fam. Mm-hmm. You guys don't even know if there's someone else in waiting, invisible, to just speak up at any given moment.
I like it.
It's Fergie. She's here. We got Scott Fish in the chat saying, ask Joey if he wants to StreamYard now. Hey, Joey, would you like to StreamYard now?
Was this a setup? So last night, Scott's like, Joey, do you have to work tomorrow? I'm like, I know I've got football stuff I have to work on, but I'm pretty much home tomorrow. He goes, great, let's StreamYard. Sent him a message like 10 o'clock this morning. What time do you want to StreamYard? I feel like I was set up. I feel like this was the joke. I have fallen straight into Scott Fish's trap, although he doesn't know what the Godfather Part 2 is. So, yeah.
We get you every time. And Scott also excited to have Nate here. We got Albert in here saying hello, everyone. What's up, Albert? And Jay wants to know, will we see Nate in Canton this year? Nate, are you making an appearance at the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton?
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. This will be back. It's the second most looked forward to thing besides this show is the Canton experience with all you guys.
If anybody watching has not made it out to the Canton Expo yet, if you are a fantasy football fan, if you like fantasy football, if you like just people and hanging out, you got to show up there. It's so much fun being surrounded by people who share that hobby, singing, talking ball. It's a highlight of the year. I don't think you'll meet someone who goes that doesn't feel that way.
Right.
I feel like Nate knows the best little side quest too to the expo. You want to talk to us about that, Nate? What you did last year?
Oh man, we stopped. My wife and I drove instead of flying. We stopped in Indy, stayed the night there, and then we went to Indy training camp. Got my hopes up for Nick Cross from an IDP standpoint. Watching him, had the inside, was talking about how he was playing snaps, and then he didn't step foot on the field. So clearly, maybe I shouldn't go to training camps, but it was great. We did that. And that's the one thing, too, is anybody listening, if you want to go and you have a significant other, you just don't want to, if someone that wants to go to do anything besides just 72 hours of football, we went to Shawshank Prison, which is pretty badass, by the way. See? Boom, right there.
I was waiting for.
I know. And, so we got to go through there. So, side note, don't go to prison. That is a shitty place. I don't think I want to go now. So,
I have
off the bucket list.
I've never seen that movie, but
what?
There was one time when I was at dinner with a girl that I was dating in college, and she invited me over to meet her father. And her father's got this crazy thick Boston accent, right? And I'm asking him, like, what do you do for a living? And he's like, have you seen The Shawshank Redemption? And I was like, no. Or no, I probably lied and said yes, because he then explained to me his job. And he said, well, I work at a golf course, and, Morgan Freeman's character in that movie, whatever you need, I make it happen. And then he just stopped talking. Like, he just looked me in the eyes in his thick Boston accent and compared his job to Morgan Freeman's in Shawshank Redemption. I've never seen the movie, but based on what he said, I was truly terrified the rest of the meal. I sat there very quietly.
He just goes to the tee box and he's like, Michael Palman stepping up to the tee box. He's had a long jump tee box today. 270 yards. What a day it'll be. That's all he does. He doesn't actually get stuff for people. He just narrates the whole golf.
Beautiful.
Man, I thought I was going to go
golf every day. I thought it went great, personally. Hey, I thought that was wonderful.
We got Jay in the chat saying, hi, Diddly Ho and Neighborinos. What's up, Jay? And Grim wanted to start us off with a question today. Grim wanted to know about the signing of Foster Moreau to the New Orleans Saints and if this affects Taysom Hill at all. So this is kind of a two-parter here. Nate, do you have any interest in Foster Moreau signing here with the Saints? And then to Grim's further point, does this affect Taysom Hill? Do you expect to see more of him at TV maybe?
Man, question one, Foster Moreau. No, I think it's depth. I mean, I'm more interested in Juwan Johnson than anything. And two, I think the love affair between Sean Payton and Taysom Hill is no longer there. So now Taysom Hill is just kind of the awkward, hey, I used to be loved and now do I have a role type scenario. I mean, he's athletic enough to get on the field, and I just don't know if it's fantasy significance at all.
The way you said that, it made it feel like the guy who graduated but like keeps coming back to the parties.
Exactly.
Like Sean Payton's gone, the rest of the class graduated, and Taysom Hill's just like, "Hey guys,
what's up? Remember when I played quarterback?"
He's not rude or mean. He's just living in that moment. Mm-hmm. Joey, do you feel similar to Nate here on how this affects Taysom Hill?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most surprising aspect of this trade and this whole situation associated is that when Denver traded for a tight end, it wasn't Taysom Hill. It was Adam Troutman. So, I don't know what Hill's role is on this team. I am more excited about Juwan Johnson, but Foster Moreau doesn't move the needle.
Yeah. Also, Scott in here saying, what the hell? How has Simon not seen that movie? He takes time out of his day to watch Now You See Me Too, but refuses to watch Shawshank. I got my priorities, Scott. I got my priorities. Also, Dustin said, I know Team Joey can't win today, but also means he can't lose. And that is a perfect segue. You cannot win today, Joey, but you can definitely get mad based on this tier list if Nate and I vehemently disagree with what you're saying. But we're going to make some quarterback tiers. Before we get into that, though, you guys can take a peek at where we started with part 1 last week. We're jumping into part 2 this week. Nate's going to help us out. But before we do that, a couple reminders. First and foremost, if you're not already following our guest, Nate, you need to go and remedy that right now. He's on Twitter at Nate Marcum. It's below his handsome face on the screen. You can also find it in the description of this YouTube video. After you do that, we've got some exciting news today. If you want to compete against Joey or Jay in one of their eliminator leagues to support Fantasy Cares, we had John Bosch on yesterday. You can do that today. We're going to post the links in the chats. They're filling up quick. So get one of those spots, support a nice cause, and compete against the FYF guys. Whichever one you want to be.
I think Jay has like 5 spots left and spots in our first ones. So if we fill those up, we can always start a second one.
Let's do it. So guys, go and compete against Joey and help him raise some money for a good cause. Or if you don't want to compete against Joey or Jay, check out the Fantasy Care site. There's a ton of analysts that you can compete against as well, if neither one of those guys get you too excited.
But if you want to win, play against Jay and
I. Yeah, if you want a shot at winning. You guys ready to get into this?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. Nate, you're the guest here. How this is going to work is we're going to one by one pick a player we want to talk about. We'll say what tier we would put them in, why we'd put them there. We're going to average those numbers. You're going to be up first here, picking which quarterback out of the ones remaining you want to put on this tier list.
I'm going to strictly go by pictures because I think that's just par for the course. And barely recognizable, middle of the screen, Kyler Murray is my polarizing. And I put him in my tier 3. It's close to 2. And that's, can I ask you guys a question real quick? When it talks about the difference between tier 2 and tier 3, the way I look at it is my tier 3 are guys that I'm kind of just really content with landing. I'm not reaching around early. Really around tier 4 is that. Tier 3 is still content. And that's how I feel about Kyler Murray right now. I'm just content because I don't know what to expect going forward. And I think that, maybe where there's smoke, there's fire with everybody involved, from Kyler to D-Hop, etc. And I don't mean fire from the pew pew pews from Jonathan Gannon's little whirly bird things that he was doing up either. That's the thing that scares me the most. I think that's why I put him in tier 3, is because I'm worried about Jonathan Gannon. But do we think Kyler's long for the Cardinals, or was that just kind of posturing a little bit? Because they said rumor had it he almost went to Atlanta, but I don't know if I buy that or not.
Yeah, it's difficult parsing what's true or not there with Kyler Murray. I feel like he's one of the quarterbacks we've seen the most conflicting reports about over the past couple of years, and then you throw in an entirely new coaching staff, and maybe none of what we've heard matters anymore even. So I'm not sure. I tend to agree with you, maybe a little bit more cautious, but was that a tier 3 because of those
tier
reasons,
3?
Nate?
Yes.
Tier 3 for Kyler Murray. Joey, I'm curious where you land on this. Are you feeling similarly to Nate about Kyler?
I'm a little bit lower on Kyler. I've got health concerns with him. The team position I've got some concerns with. I've got him as my last guy in tier 4. Just those guys that are up ahead of him. Even Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, I would rather have them because I can trust them more going into next season and beyond. Because if Kyler doesn't really show up this year, I'm not sure when he's going to be able to show up. So I've got Kyler a little bit lower, tier 4. In 2 quarterbacks leagues, he's definitely somebody I'm drafting. But in 1 quarterback leagues, probably going with more higher upside guys.
Yeah, I understand that. A tier 3 and a tier 4 here. And Nate, I tend to align fairly closely with you. You were making your differentiation between 2 and 3. And I mentioned this last week when we were doing this. 2, I kind of view as 1 in waiting. These are the guys that, like, talent-wise, situation-wise, I view them almost in that tier 1. There's just one thing that needs to change. Justin Fields, I need to see a slight step up as a passer. Trevor Lawrence, I need to see that offense can support a top 5 quarterback. But they're there and waiting. Kyler Murray, I feel like I'm with you. We've seen what we can get from him, and there's serious top 5 upside from him. But we've also seen that with that comes crazy inconsistency. I don't think we're ever going to have him as a tier 1 guy up there with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. But I do think he can be on par with some of these guys like Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa. He's a quintessential tier 3 quarterback for me. Way better than average, but doesn't necessarily have the upside to be the number 1 guy in the league. Just not consistent enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even, I mean, weeks 1 through 9, he was the quarterback 6, and that was without, really the full plethora of receivers too. But I do worry about the injury just a little bit too, Joey. And that is enough to potentially move him down a little bit, understandably so.
We'll put him there at the end of tier 3 to signify Joey's vote there on tier 4. He snuck in there. Also, we got Bob Harris here in the chat. What's up, Bob? Said, I still haven't seen E.T., Grease, or Forrest Gump. That's incredible.
Bob, 2 of those movies you should see. 1 you should just not even bother.
Let me guess. Grease. You should not bother with.
No, I was in Grease in high school. Grease is amazing.
Forrest Gump, you should
I think
not
we know my
bother
feelings
with.
on Spielberg.
Yeah. Forrest Gump, you should not bother with. Is that why?
No, E.T.
You shouldn't bother for.
Nate's anti-E.T.
You should definitely bother with E.T.
You said
E.T.'s
Spielberg.
incredible.
Isn't Spielberg E.T.?
Yeah, I love Spielberg.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't like
we
Spielberg.
all know my feelings on Spielberg.
Oh,
no,
shit,
we all know my feelings.
Shows I don't. Oh.
And if you'd like to hear my feelings on Forrest Gump, you can join Scott Fish and I's movie show that's showing right after this.
The only feelings I have about Forrest Gump are that once I found out that the book was a much darker tale, that it was a lot more twisted and sad, and now I want to read the book, and I don't want to watch the movie again until I read it once. But that's where I'm sitting on it. Why do they always do that with movies? Why couldn't they make Forrest Gump just a completely difficult to watch, messed up movie if that's what the book was?
I don't know. I mean, I think they did pretty well. I think financially
I will
speaking,
get
they're
canceled
good.
if I start talking about Forrest Gump.
Yeah, probably to make it more palatable.
Yes.
Well, guys, we are going to move on to our next quarterback here. Joey, you've got
Yes.
Which quarterback do you want to talk about? We just threw Kyler Murray on the board.
So I've got 3 guys in my elite tier 1, and one of those guys is not up there yet. Let's put Mr. Jalen Hurts up there.
Jalen Hurts, tier 1.
Yeah. He completely balled out last year. He has probably, it might be my favorite wide receiver duo in the league right now with Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. And that defense for the Eagles got a little worse. So I actually see Hurts throwing a little bit more next year, and he still has that safety of the yardage he's going to get on the ground. It just everything about him for a dynasty quarterback, I absolutely love. Jalen Hurts in my top tier, along with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen.
Jalen Hurts, top tier for Joey. And Joey, I will disagree with one and only one thing you said there. Give me Jamar Chase and T. Higgins over A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, but it is very, very close. That being said, everything you said about Jalen Hurts is accurate. He showed last year that he can be just the number 1 quarterback in the league, and he's in an offense that supports the kind of player that he is. With the rushing upside he has, you can't knock him any lower than tier 1. I'm with you, Joey. Nate, is he up there in tier 1 with you as well?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and the only 2 concerns I had were, 1, loss of Shane Steichen. What does that mean with Brian Johnson coming in? And nothing. I didn't realize how close Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts were. Jalen Hurts' dad coached Brian Johnson in like grade school and high school, or maybe just in high school. So they have this familiarity with each other. Johnson actually recruited Jalen Hurts when he was at Mississippi State and didn't get him, even though they're close friends. And so this integration in this offense, familiarity is going to be there. And the second thing was this 13 touchdown rushing upside. Maybe that's not sustainable. Maybe we cut it in half. Cut it in half, Simon. And guess what you have? You still have the QB5 on the season. So even if you do that, he's still elite. And he's, realistically, if we look back there, he has a second place runner-up trophy already at home for Super Bowl. So that's got to be worth something.
Yeah, he's got it back there. You're no reason to bring that up, right?
No, none at all.
No biased personal reason to bring that up. No, but I'm completely with you on that front. This should be a good offense for Jalen Hurts to operate in going forward. Tier 1, pretty unanimously, and it looks like the chat is mostly agreeing with us as well. Tim said Tyreek and Waddle is the best wide receiver combo. Nate,
Simon,
what's up, Joe?
Good. I was gonna propose a side bet to you.
Okay.
AJ Brown and Smith versus Chase and Higgins. I feel like I'm on the downside of it here, but let's have a season-long bet.
In PPR, add their PPR scores together.
Yeah, PPR.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What's the bet? Loser has to eat something.
Let's let the chat come up with the terms. Let's see how creative they can get.
We could do a full-on tattoo bet. It's a full season bet. I would be so down. I've paid out on one before. I will pay out on another one.
Does the loser get to pick the tattoo? The winner gets to pick the tattoo for the other one?
It's got to be determined ahead of time. Otherwise, that gets really dangerous.
Yeah, does the guest get to pick it? Now
Simon, I will
pick
commit
the tattoo for everybody.
Yeah.
I'll commit now. I'll do a tattoo bet with you.
Let's do it. Okay, chat. Start coming up with your ideas.
Now I have 2 tattoos. You have like 12. So this is risky for me.
Mine will be.
I'll do it though.
We'll do the odds. Mine will have to be bigger than yours to account for it. So it's the same amount of like real estate.
I can't wait to have matching Crimson Tide tattoos.
Oh, it's gonna be fantastic. All right. I do, Nate. I have the previous tattoo bet I mentioned before I went to college. My best friend was going to Bama. I was going to Clemson. This was in 2012. We made a bet. If Clemson and Bama play for a national title while we're in school, the loser gets the other school's logo tattooed on their ass. Clemson was nothing when I went there. They were like a little bit rising, but sneaking into the top 25. And then our last year, what was supposed to be our last year, right. Clemson plays Alabama, loses, and I have a big old palm-sized Alabama A right on my ass cheek.
Why would you make the bet that far in advance? I mean, is clairvoyance one of your strong suits, or
I made the bet because I thought there was no chance in hell Clemson would play Alabama for a national. Like the odds of Clemson making it were very low, and then the odds of the opponent happening to be Alabama, even if they're the most likely opponent, it just seemed so low. And then it happened twice because we stayed in college too long.
I love it. And I'm gonna look forward to the 18 weeks of tattoo recommendations between this, because something tells me we're going to see a lot of Forrest Gump based tattoos for Joey, which would be great. Actually, he got shot in the butt, and maybe like a bullet wound as a tattoo in the butt would be hilarious.
A big can of Dr. Pepper as a tramp stamp. That's what we need.
Oh my god!
Ping pong paddle. Yep. So many wonderful things that came out of Forrest Gump. A shrimp.
Oh yeah.
Dustin and Jay both suggesting Grimace, and Mr. Scamper's bringing up the oven mitt. We can probably get some Grimace and oven mitt tattoos up in here. Well, it's my turn to pick the next quarterback. We did Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray. Where do I want to go next? We got so many options here. I'm going to go with a quarterback that it breaks my heart to put here because I had higher hopes for him, and I do still believe there's some upside. But I want to talk about Buccaneers starting quarterback Baker Mayfield. I had genuine excitement for him whenever he was on the Rams, and the idea that he could stay there and be the successor to Matthew Stafford under Sean McVay after what we saw from him in a limited time period with that coach. I'm not going to lie, he bumped up a couple tiers for me. Like, it was a guy where now there's a path to him being a starter on a good offense. I don't know if I trust him there in the Buccaneers offense. They're adding other pieces around him, maybe to compete. It looks like maybe we are looking at Baker Mayfield's transition into a journeyman or backup quarterback in the league, and that's got to put him down there with Gardner Minshew in tier 7 for me. He's going to be down there at the bottom. If you would have asked me towards the end of last season when he was with the Rams, he probably would have been up a tier 6 with Trey Lance. These guys that have upside if they get that starting job, but I can't do it. Nate, where are you putting Baker?
Yeah, I'm right there in the same tier you are. And honestly, if he was drafted, let's say he was drafted to this Tampa Bay team with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Russell Gage. Maybe I shouldn't include Russell Gage, but rattling off the
That was
receiver
nice of
core.
you.
That was
nice
very
of you to
nice.
include Russell
You
Gage.
guys can check that on your bingo sheet. Russell Gage got mentioned on the pod, so somebody got one check mark finally of the year. But yeah, I feel the same. Don't get me wrong. I'm not concerned going into this year. I don't think Kyle Trask is a concern for me, but I believe I had Tampa Bay actually drafted under the replacement this year in a lot of the mocks that I had done, and I didn't see it. And speaking of Kyle Trask,
Dustin saying we mispronounced their starting quarterback, Kyle Trask. You think it's Baker, not Kyle, though, Nate?
I do. I mean, I'm not real high on either one personally, or just the Tampa Bay offense in general with one of those two. But, at that point, when that far down, I don't think you're really necessarily even concerning himself with them unless you're in a super flex and he's your third or even wait on second.
Yeah. Joey, we've got 2 tier 7s for Baker Mayfield. Where are you putting them as the Buccaneers fan?
Yeah, I'm glad you guys both went 7, so it doesn't really matter where I go. So I can just defend my quarterback and go tier 6. I have an opportunity to start. I think he will start for the Buccaneers. In 2 quarterback leagues, I think he is an option if you really, really wait on quarterback. Most likely be a third quarterback on your bench. But he's got good weapons there. Just the situation's not super great. And I do think that the Buccaneers are hoping that they were going to get Caleb Williams. They might tank this year, but I don't know.
We'll see. This is not it's not an anti-Baker take. We've seen him be an above-average quarterback in the NFL. It's just a dynasty value take. I just don't see it. I don't see the path to value increasing, and this is where it's at. I still stand by the fact that I think he's an above-average NFL quarterback. We've seen it. Some of the stuff he did on those not-so-great Browns teams, he can be decent. It's just
if Sean McVay couldn't unlock him, Todd Bowles is going to unlock him. No offense, Coach, but
he's watching. So Sean McVay came awfully close to unlocking him with about 20 minutes in an earpiece. It was that was unbelievable what they did. Where do you guys Joey, we're in the middle of a Superflex startup draft now.
We are.
And I think the thing that I get most anxious about during these drafts is when the third quarterbacks are going to start going. When do you grab QB3? So, Joey, what's your general strategy there? Because that can be hard to predict. It's easy to tell when those second quarterbacks are going to start flying, but QB3 it's weird. It's a big tier jump.
So, in a 2 quarterback league, I'm going to have 3 quarterbacks by the 7th round. Pretty solid. But in Superflex, I'm not going to reach for the second quarter or the third quarterback. I'm going to make sure that the value is there. So, if somebody's like, Matthew Stafford sitting there in the 8th or 9th round, okay, yeah, I'll draft him, even though he's only maybe got 1 or 2 years left. But, I'm hoping for somebody as a third quarterback, like a Hendon Hooker, a rookie that's going to sit for a couple years. So I'm never really reaching on a third quarterback in Superflex.
Nate, do you have a similar strategy when it comes to third QB, or are you approaching it a little differently?
I'd love to say I have the same strategy in every draft. If I have a tendency to wait longer than I wanted to, you always sometimes fall prey to the old, I can't let this guy go, and then all of a sudden you're chasing quarterbacks. At that point, I'll take a third in a super flex. But like Joey said, in a 2 quarterback league, I'm a little more conscious of making sure that I don't get too far behind, because there's nothing you're going to do at that point. That's just lost value if you don't even fill that second spot with anything adequate.
Yeah. We got Craig in the chat saying, I know I was late, but please tell me you talked some IDP with Nate earlier. One IDP player was brought up that Nate fell in love with in Indianapolis at spring training, if I remember correctly.
Oh, God.
Cross, was that the last name? Am I remembering that
yeah,
right?
Yeah, Nick
Nailed
Cross.
It. Nick Cross.
Yeah.
But that is it, Craig.
That was it.
We probably got to bring up some more IDP topics.
I'll drop one in every time I discuss one, just to secretly see if I can do that. Like have you guys seen the Weatherman that does he drops song lyrics into his broadcast? It's pretty good. He takes recommendations, and he does there was one, and he would with so much drama in the LBC, it's this high front coming at a low front, and I don't know how to find him or how to tell you, but I digress.
I'm gonna need to Google those after this.
Yeah.
Also, Mr. Scamper is coming in and backing us up, saying there was a mention of Colts great Chris Cross earlier. Craig, is his name? Wait, is his name really Chris Cross?
No, it's
Makes me
Nate,
want to jump.
I wish it was crisscross.
For one moment, I got so excited that I had somehow skipped over the name Chris Cross 2 times in a row, and I was getting to experience it there.
I have a question for the panel on the show right now. With Simon, was Chris Cross before your time?
Applesauce, or is this a person?
Oh no, this is a rap duo.
Yes.
Yeah, this is
So
before my
Nate,
time.
I'll ask you then.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever wear your overalls backwards? Like Chris
Overalls, no. Cardinals jersey, yes. So if you need a refresher, this is a rap hip hop duo from the 80s, 90s, I guess 90s really, that used to wear their clothes backwards. And as Daddy Mac would make you jump, Chris Cross would also have their clothes on, overalls, as Joey alluded to, which is that was a tougher pull. You already pull wearing overalls, and then you wear them backwards. You got it.
Why do these fits work? Like why does he look so hard in this athletics jersey with those jeans on backwards? Like he is looking fly as hell. When you said they wore their clothes backwards, I was expecting to see some goofy thing. It works.
It works.
Yeah. It works.
And they were like
What the
13. I had my mom go out and buy me purple overalls. Yeah. I was all in on Chris Cross. I had the cassette single.
Love it.
This is sick.
We've talked too much Chris Cross on the show today. Tier 1 13-year-old rap duos, let me tell you.
Exactly.
Chris Cross, tier 1, making that list. All right, I forget whose turn it was. I think it was Nate's turn to pick the next quarterback, if I'm not mistaken.
I think we've done 3, yep.
I will do as any great guest does. I will segue from your purple overalls to a quarterback that wears purple jerseys, and that'll be my beginning of tier 2, Lamar Jackson. I really, really want to. I would love that he didn't have. I mean, how cool is that? You just put his jersey on backwards, and you have Joey basically in 1996. I mean, that, or whatever year it was, probably 94 earlier. But I really want to believe in the health. I don't know if I fully can. I think the upside is worth a tier 2 investment. Obviously, the switch from Greg Roman to Todd Monken is going to be interesting to watch. And he's already said he wants to do more, no huddle, high tempo. So that, to me, elevates the potential ceiling even a little bit more, and probably the floor as well. Obviously, the pieces are in place with, OBJ and Zay Flowers in addition to Rashad Bateman in a running game. The question is going to come down to health. And if you go back and look, I just saw this earlier today, I didn't know this going in, but Todd Monken, who led Georgia in rushing touchdowns last year, or tied for the lead?
Not Stetson Bennett, was it?
It is Stetson Bennett
with
10.
God.
Now, I am not predicting that Lamar is going to increase his rushing upside because of a correlation to a college statistic. But you know what? When it's there, you use it and you say, why not? Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, even with missing games, he's still been on total, not just a per game basis. He's a low in QB1 in only 12 games. So, yeah, I'm interested to hear where you guys have Lamar at.
Lamar in tier 2 for Nate here, but right at the very top, it sounds like. Joey, where are you putting Lamar Jackson?
So there's 5 guys I have in tier 2, and I'm pretty happy having all 5 of them if I get fair value on them. I never like to reach for a quarterback. I'm going to wait on quarterback. But if I can get any of these 5 where it just feels like the value is right, doesn't even need to be a reach or a pull, just good. That's Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, and Lamar Jackson. Confident now that he's in Baltimore. He signed the contract. I'm absolutely happy having him. He's in my tier 2, but starting on my team. Absolutely.
Well, Joey in tier 2. And if you would have asked me this a little over a week ago, he would have been in my tier 2. What we talked about, tier 2 is my tier 1 in waiting. And my biggest question mark about Lamar was, will he be on this team that I feel comfortable will operate well around him and build around him? If he was not in Baltimore, he would have stayed in tier 2. That they've got that locked up, contract signed. Lamar Jackson's tier 1 for me. There's not much else I want from a dynasty quarterback. I'm just as happy with Lamar Jackson as I am with Joe Burrow at this point. I understand the concerns for Lamar Jackson's health, but I also think his upside's higher than a lot of those guys that we have up there. I think he has an upside for fantasy because of what he can do on the ground that someone like Joe Burrow does not have, or even Josh Allen doesn't have. Like Josh Allen's a rusher, but he's not the rusher that Lamar Jackson is. He's up there in tier 1 after they sign that contract for me, but he's going to end up in tier 2 with 2 tier 2 votes and 1 tier 1 vote. Lamar Jackson, welcome to tier 2. That's a tier of players that I love. Tier 2. Like those are just guys that I love watching play. Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. Before we move on, Grimfan wanted to ask us about Tua and Cousins. So let's break these down and talk about them.
Okay.
Nate, we tiered Tua last week. I ended up putting them in tier 3. I'm curious how you feel about Tua just going into this next season.
Yeah, I have him as in that same tier. Obviously, I think we all have the exact same reservations about him. I think that doesn't fall too far from the injury concern. But as far as aptitude and ability from a fantasy standpoint, he surrounded himself. Earlier, Tim said that he has Waddle and Hill as his elite receiving tandem, and I don't have a disagreement that they're in that consideration. So he's surrounded with weapons. The only thing holding him out of a higher tier 3, and I don't know where you guys have him in that tier 3 overall, but he would be towards the bottom of my tier 3. If you took the concussions away, I mean, there was a case to be made that he would sneak into that tier 2 for me, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is tier 2 for me. He's up there with those guys. I put him in tier 2, and part of that is I'm believing the words that I'm being told whenever it comes to his concussions. I understand the concerns further, but I'm just going to operate. They say no further risk until shown otherwise. I'm going to take it. And that being said, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe that's naive based on how the NFL has treated concussions in the past. But God, they're under a microscope right now. If something happens to Tua and they said that, like that could be major issues for the league on like a stopping play level. I'm hopeful that they're being more honest, but man, not a good look this year. We can, why don't we, Joey, I know it's your turn, but I'm going to jump in there and say Grim recommended Cousins. Why don't we talk about Kirk Cousins now, and then you can pick one.
No. And I actually was going to pick Cousins because I want you to zoom in on his picture. Now, is that Kirk Cousins or is that Josh Fuster? Like, let's be completely honest, guys. Like, I'm going to have to call Josh and see how his team game's going today.
If I'm not mistaken there.
Yeah, that is Josh. That's not Kirk Cousins, but nice move in there, Jay. So Kirk Cousins, I would put him in tier 4 for me. He's a quarterback that I don't mind in, say, redraft, or if I was going to have a win now team. Even as my QB1, I would love him as my QB2 in Superflex or in 2 quarterback leagues. But he's not someone I see a ton of dynasty value in, as in having a lot of years left on your dynasty squad. So I would put him in tier 4, right beside Geno Smith. I feel pretty comfortable with him there. Great wide receiver duo he has there, and TJ Hawkinson could actually be second on the team in targets. So he's got all the weapons in the world to throw to.
I'm in lockstep with you. Tier 3 requires a little bit more upside for me than tier 4 does. Tier 4 is like tier 3 and tier 4, I think play-wise might be somewhat similar even from like a fantasy output, but tier 3, there's upside to go up. There's upside to jump a tier next year. I don't so much see that from Kirk Cousins. That being said, he's going to be great. There's a good chance he's a top 12 quarterback for you again next year with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. I can't put him lower than that. So I'll do a tier 4 with you, Joey. Nate, are you disagreeing with us, or where are you putting Kirk Cousins?
I'm not disagreeing with you guys for the same reasons. 34, last year of a contract, don't know where he's going to go. But in a redraft this year only, I mean, this would be 4 years straight, top 12 if he does it. There's nothing not to like about it. And I mean, that picture right there, if that did move him up to a tier 3, that's a tier 3 pick, tier 1 picture. Unfortunately, tier 4 dynasty outlook for the expiring contract, and somebody will pick him. Do you think he actually, you have a landing spot for him next year? Have you guys even considered that?
Joey, what do you think? I feel like you've been prognosticating landing spots. You've got Jared Goff to the Bucs. Where's Cousins going to end up?
He's also going to the Bucs.
They're all going to the Bucs. Everybody to the Bucs.
Everybody goes to die.
I don't know.
What
team makes sense?
Man, I think after Aaron Rodgers leaves the Jets mid-season, I think Kirk Cousins would fit in really well there.
Maybe Atlanta after they accidentally win 6 games, so they can't get the top draft pick, and they realize Desmond Ridder is not the solution at quarterback, so Kirk Cousins heads down there.
A little spicy, and
Tennessee, Will Levis is a failure.
Yeah, I was Yeah.
I don't know how
They give
spicy
up on
that
him after
is.
1 year. Yeah. But that would suck for them to spend high draft picks on quarterbacks 2 years in a row and then bring Kirk Cousins in. Because he had happened.
What about Pittsburgh? What if Pickett really just poops the bed this year? And Pittsburgh brings him in.
That's not a bad fit. I could see him being very successful in Pittsburgh with the receivers that they bring in.
So I see in the chat that Jay mentions the 49ers. And I think an interesting little conversation is, what if the 49ers somehow find a way to trade Trey Lance to the Vikings and say, hey, here's a project that if they believe in Purdy and going forward, and Trey Lance is gone, and that leaves room because if Purdy doesn't, I guess that's the problem. If Purdy doesn't play well, they're not going to ever unload Trey Lance. And if Purdy doesn't play or does play well, why bring in a 35-year-old Kirk Cousins?
Yeah. But I guess the move would have to be trade before Brock Purdy's ready to play. Like if they got an offer they couldn't refuse, like if they got a Kirk Cousins plus a draft pick for Trey Lance kind of offer, we probably won't see that. But
it'd be fun.
It would be so much fun. All right. Well, we're going to move on to our next quarterback. Joey, did you want to pick another one?
I want to know why Trey Lance is on there twice.
Is Trey Lance on there twice?
2 Trey Lances would be in tier 4 for me. If I can have 2 of them, yeah, he's on there twice. Let's go. Let's see. Let's talk to Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
Let's just let the cat out of the bag and let's talk about him. Browns quarterback, I have him in tier 3. I like him alongside Dak and Tua. Anthony Richardson, I was really happy to see him move up into tier 3, even though I have him a little bit lower in tier 4. But I think when Watson's been right, he's looked great. The problem is we didn't see him play for almost 2 years. Now he's had pretty much a whole offseason he'll have in that Cleveland offense. I think he'll be a lot better. And I think people might forget how good Deshaun Watson was. He has top 3 upside. So, yeah, Deshaun Watson, tier 3 for me.
Yeah. The talent's there. I just haven't seen it in the past 3 years. Like you just mentioned, Joey, even whenever he played this year, it didn't look great. And that may not have all been on him. The Browns team did not look great this season. It was Amari Cooper as his maybe best bud, but we're hoping with a full offseason that this offense looks better. I think Kyler Murray being in tier 3 makes it pretty easy for me to put Deshaun Watson in tier 3 as well. I've got major concerns about both teams. More for the Cardinals right now. They seem like an absolute disaster than for the Browns, but that Browns offense was way worse than it looked on paper last year. Everything said it should have been a better offense, and we didn't see that. So until we see more, he's tier 3, but he's got the talent that fairly easily after a couple games this season, I think we could see consensus tier 2 for Deshaun Watson. Nate, what are you thinking here?
Right there with you guys, and talked about the team concept. And he was, those weeks that he played, he was the most sacked quarterback in the league. So he already was under pressure. Yet the positive is they utilized him in the run game. He actually was heavily utilized. I think he was 6th in rushing attempts during that span amongst quarterbacks. Not that puts him another tier up, but I think that just solidifies that floor when you don't have a ton of receiving weapons. I think you have some. I basically like to build around that. But you're right, Joey. 2 years, jumps in, is sacked all the time, has an offensive line that's crumbling, and now I think they're positioned to at least give him a full go. So I'm right there with you in tier 3.
Tier 3. That's where Deshaun Watson's going to land, which means we're on to our next quarterback. And I forgot who I wanted to talk about. Oh, the reason I forgot is because when you start thinking about this player, his vacant look invades every aspect of your mind and clears it out. Daniel Jones is the player I want to talk about. But he's more than just an empty face. He's got a lot of money now, too. He signed a big contract this year, and that provided some security for fantasy football. We liked what the Giants did with the new coaching staff last year. Daniel Jones took what looked like steps forward after being promised that would happen with the quarterback whisperer Dable coming in there. I like Daniel Jones, but I view him maybe as what I expect fantasy output from him. He's going to get a little differently on the ground, but younger Kirk Cousins. I don't expect a much higher ceiling. He's got top 12 in him. I don't think he's got number 1 overall in him ever, or even top 3 in him ever. But I can pretty safely plug him in, week out, and maybe he rushes the ball in. Maybe he gets 60 yards on the ground, gets me a 19, 21 point fantasy game. You're happy with that. So Daniel Jones is tier 4 for me, and it is the security of his job that just locks him in there. It's not exciting, but he can be good for fantasy. Nate, where are you putting Daniel Jones?
I'm in the same tier. I want to get spicy and say something higher, but I just don't see the upside. To me is a little limited in the fact that he had 5 games last year without a touchdown, which is a little concerning. But he has they added more weapons. You throw in Darren Waller, I was going to say Paris Campbell, and that's just me optimistically wishing for a healthy season out of Paris Campbell and Jalen Hyatt, et cetera. The question, of course, is going to be what would the Saquon news going forward. And I don't really concern myself. If you lose Saquon, his passing upside probably goes up. If you keep him, the chance that they score improves. I mean, his rushing upside is there. It's top 10 at the rushing attempts from a quarterback the last 3 years. He'll do that to sustain that steady floor. So I'm in agreement with you, Simon.
We got 2 tier 4s. Joey, if I'm not mistaken, you alluded to where you had Daniel Jones earlier. Where is he going to go in this tier list for you?
He's going to go tier 4. As far as I mentioned that Cousins and Geno Smith are kind of my win now quarterbacks in this tier, where Bryce Young is for the future. I think Daniel Jones kind of falls in between both of those. I think we've seen some good production from him in the past few years, but we've also seen some bad production. So I can't put him up in tier 3, where I think that's probably his upside. I don't think he has the upside of a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Fields, but could he get to Tua level? Prescott? Absolutely. But tier 4 for me.
Tier 4. That's going to put Daniel Jones firmly in tier 4. We'll put him right there next to Kirk Cousins. They kind of look like buddies.
Oh, I missed it.
That's a movie right there. That's a buddy cop movie. Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones solving absolutely nothing. They never find the killer. In fact, they don't even find the police station. They're just driving around all night looking for their way home. Jay said he's the human personification of milquetoast, and this coming from a Giants fan. Congratulations on your long-term milquetoast, Jay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's going to bring us back to you, Nate. Which quarterback would you like to discuss next? We probably got time for at least one more round here.
Well, let's fill him in. I'm interested to hear where I get the feeling that he's going to be in tier 2 for all of us. And I have him at the back end of tier 2 for team concerns going forward to an extent. And that is Justin Herbert. I just don't know this offense. Austin Eckler could be gone soon. Mike Williams is inconsistent with health. Keenan Allen's not getting any younger. There's just too many pieces, and you see the up and down. I think last year's 25 touchdowns was an outlier, of course. I think 2021's 38 might be a little too high. But the passing yards are there. The touchdowns have been up and down. But I love the talent. I just don't know about the situation surrounding him, and I feel like I'm more comfortable with the other names in that tier going forward from Dynasty.
Justin Herbert at the end of tier 2. That's where you're putting him, Nate?
That's where I'm putting him.
Joey, what do you have to say for Mr. Herbert?
Tier 2. You just got Quentin Johnston. I feel like I need to pronounce that T here on FYF. So that's a nice addition to the receiving core. And you got Keenan Allen and Mike Williams that will both play about 12 games this year before they both get injured at different points. But no, I do like, and then he's got Eckler to throw the ball down to as well. And it just was a year ago removed. He was the QB2 in fantasy. And that's just a year ago. And his situation might have gotten better now. Yeah. Tier 2 for me.
Tier 2. Herbert's going to be up a tier for me.
I would say he's the tier 2 guy that I know you say that your tier 2 is tier 1 and waiting. I don't know if I see the upside with Herbert as I do with Hurts and Burrow.
Yeah. That is it's a generality. Sometimes players do find their way where that's their ceiling, but they've reached it. So they're in tier 2. But I generally find that players that end up in tier 2 for me, they fit the profile of just one thing missing that would put them up there into 1. And Herbert is up in 1 for me. Something that really helped his value this offseason for me was the addition of Kellen Moore and the subtraction of Joe Lombardi at offensive coordinator there. What Justin Herbert's done, being hamstrung by some questionable play calling and decision making by the offensive staff there in LA, has been impressive. And with a constant stream of unhealthy wide receivers. They added more depth at that position this year. He's got a offensive coordinator that worked magic in that Dallas offense. I think he's got number one overall quarterback upside. Like, I would not be shocked if at the end of the season, Justin Herbert's number one overall. For that reason, he's up there in that top tier for me. Tier 1. But we're going to have Justin Herbert end up in tier 2 after 2 tier 2s from Joey and Nate. Joey, you get to decide the next one. Before we do that, though, Craig did want to know, instead of milk toast, what about milk steak? He likes his boiled over hard with the side of the finest jelly bean.
Craig, do you happen to like ghouls a lot? Because I like ghouls.
And magnets.
It is the only way to eat your milk steak, of course. Also, go ahead, Joey.
Go ahead. No, you were going to say also, and I was going to talk about the next player.
And
so you go ahead.
Also, it's Joey's turn to talk about the next player. Which
nice.
you like to
Beautiful
talk
segue.
about?
Whew, only the finest segues here at FYF. I want to talk about Jared Goff. He's a quarterback that I absolutely love every aspect of him this year. And I believe he's only 27 years old. I'm looking at my tiers right now, and I have him in tier 4. And I don't know. I have Geno in tier 3. I'm going to say tier 3 for Jared Goff. That Detroit Lions offense looks like so much fun. 2 fantastic wide receivers. And you got Jahmyr Gibbs now to check the ball down to. And Hooker is 2 years away from starting. Yeah, I like Goff a lot. Tier 3 for me.
Tier 3 for Goff for Joey. I'm going to go just a little bit lower for Jared Goff. Tier 4. The fact that they drafted Hendon Hooker shows that there's probably a lack of job security for him. We hope that he lands as a starting quarterback in a good situation after this, but there's just so much uncertainty. And I feel like we have seen the story before where players start moving teams and it doesn't quite pan out the way it did previously. I love him on the Lions. If you told me he's going to be on the Lions for the next 4 years, I'd probably put him in tier 3. But without that security, he's going to be tier 4 for me. Nate, where are you putting Jared Goff?
I do have him in tier 4. I like him better than, I put it right where you're putting him, right in the middle of my tier 4. And I do see the upside with the offense around. I think that week 1 against the Chiefs could be a very good, if you're going to draft Jared Goff, week 1 should be a fun one for you because there's a good chance that's a 60-point over in week 1. I do have the same concerns with Hendon Hooker, and I'm higher on Hendon Hooker than maybe others, and so I see it as a 1 year, and I think he'll be able to start the following. So that's the only reason is the concern for that pathway to multiple years as a starter. But like you said, if he's 27, there's not a absurd reaction to him being with another team and maybe a better potentially better landing spot. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think 4 is fair.
I want to verify that he's 27. I lied here on Front Yard Fantasy today, and I just want to take accountability. He is 28.
Damn.
Sorry about that, guys.
Even better, more aged and mature.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I feel like Jared Goff was he felt like 31 exactly, and he has been 31 for 5 years? Like, I feel like he just hasn't aged up or down. With Jared Goff ending up in tier 4 for us, right in the middle. That means it's my turn to pick the next quarterback. And I want to talk about probably the most talked about quarterback this offseason, Aaron Rodgers. On a new team with the New York Jets, coming off a very disappointing season for fantasy there in Green Bay. That being said, they didn't do anything to help him out in that offense either. And there was already turmoil between him and the team before the season started. So I'm trying not to hold that play and say this is the new Aaron Rodgers. I think it was just a bad situation all around. Now he's going to a team that seems primed to just plug a quarterback in and win. He is older. I don't know if he's going to play more than 1 year. And if they do make a deep run and somehow pull it off, I am very confident he's done if they pull off a victory in the Super Bowl this year, like our friend Grim has suggested. So he's got to be tier 4 for me. He can be good for fantasy for you this year, but I have zero confidence in him after that. Nate, where are you putting Aaron Rodgers?
I think I'm going to put him in tier 5. I don't think he's that far removed from where Matthew Stafford's at. And I don't think that's an unfair dynasty pathway for both of them to have the same. I think Stafford had a little more health concerns than Rodgers, but Rodgers also has 4 or 5 years on him as the elder, which as you get older, like myself, waking up sometimes just hurts. And so not quite. Maybe I need to take one of those retreats like Aaron Rodgers did, maybe without the ayahuasca and other hallucinogenics, but get my body right. But he
Just
does
the
have good
darkness.
weapons. Just the darkness. Which sounds terrible, by the way. God, that sounds horrible.
That sounds awful.
Oh, like the worst possible thing ever, like torture.
Give
But
me the hallucinations.
I think so. I feel, yeah. But yeah, so I'm going to put him in 5. I do like the 1 year. I think it's an upgrade from Green Bay. I feel better drafting him this year than I would have if he was still in Green Bay. But from a dynasty perspective, the long-term effect just seems like it's a 1 year type Band-Aid for the Jets.
1 year type Band-Aid. We got a tier 4 and a tier 5. Joey, where are you putting Aaron Rodgers?
I have him at the top of my tier 4. I know I kind of spoke illy of him in the middle of the show, and I just want to make up for that. I think if you're going to try to win your dynasty team, the dynasty league in year 1, I think Aaron Rodgers is the perfect quarterback. I think the situation for him in New York is fantastic. Him and Garrett Wilson are going to be fantastic together. Yeah, I've got him outside my top 12 quarterbacks, but he is in my tier 4, top of it.
Do you think his ceiling is this year, Joey?
Like QB5.
QB5. That's what came up in my head. That's what I was thinking. It may not be likely.
I don't see him.
Look at the weapons around him, and not too much rushing upside, but he could get up there.
Yeah, if you look at our tiers, then risk with Jackson, Fields, and maybe I'd argue Herbert. There's not the risk that's in there, but Lawrence has that risk too. He did have one good season, but we don't know how Cal Ridley's going to work out.
Also, we got Scott Fish in here saying, when is pub trivia? And is Joey on it? Well, there is no pub trivia this week, but we may have a new time for pub trivia next week. So stay tuned here on this show, and we'll put it on our Twitter as well for whenever the next pub trivia is going to be.
Simon forgot to clean out the bar mats, and some really nasty stuff was growing in there. So we got closed down for the week. But we'll be back next week. We got the OSHA guys in there trying to clean it all up.
And by that, we mean JL. JL is in there right now cleaning the mats. And he's doing such a great job. Right, we got time for one more here. Nate, you get to pick the last quarterback that we're talking about on today's show. Who do you want it to be?
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Russell Wilson. Let's see where Russ can go. Because I think realistically, the upside is that with Sean Payton in this offense and with the weapons around, if you have, if we can men in black each one of us and forget last year happened, I think he's a tier 2-3 guy that we're going to say, oh my God, what a landing spot, what a situation. Unfortunately, we can't erase that, and we do, have those bad. We have that OSHA taste of that beer mat drink in our mouth still that we can't get rid of, and for that reason, I want to put him in my tier 5. Because I think to me is upside even. I think tier 5 is higher than many will, only because I'm going to use an old Denver Broncos situation from the past is when John Elway had seen better years from years 27 to like 32. His 33 age season, he had one of his best seasons because he got reunited with a coach, or not reunited, but he got united with a coach that actually, I kind of say, opened up his opportunity and his upside. And I think the same thing could be said with Russ. Maybe a lot goes without saying that when he lost that Trevor Moward, his mental health coach dying might have done something to him. I don't know if I can place all the blame just on that, but the upside is there for higher than even tier 5, but that's where I'm comfortable. How about you?
Joey, where are you putting him? A little bit higher than tier 5. Last year, you were the Russell Wilson guy. And I was with you. I believed you.
Yeah. A lot of egg on my face last year.
Well, are you going to eat
That's
it
going
this
to be
year?
a tattoo on my body this year.
Yes,
let's see. I've got Russell Wilson, my last guy in tier 4, my QB 19 in Dynasty. With Sean Payton going there, I think that, like Nate was saying, that actually gave me a little bit of optimism with him. We saw what Sean Payton did with Drew Brees. And while Russell Wilson at this point in his career is not going to be Drew Brees, I think he can have a very serviceable fantasy season and a couple years ahead. But still, he is a little bit long in the tooth. Actually, not how long his teeth are. That's a phrase for someone that's getting older. So I have him in my tier 4 at the bottom, but they're very close to tier 5.
He's got he's got really long teeth at this point, and Jay said the upside is unlimited. Coming in there with you, Nate, as well. I think I'm a little bit higher on Russ. I'm buying into this Denver Broncos offense being what it was supposed to be last year under Sean Payton. The pieces are there. Everything makes sense. This should look great. So I'm going to believe that it's going to be great, that we're going to see the Broncos playoff sleeper type of team that we expected last year. That's going to put them in tier 4 for me. Russell Wilson is solidly there with Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, and I'd even put him at the higher end of tier 4 for the reasons you said, Nate. We could easily, at the end of this season, be like, yeah, Russell Wilson's a top 12 quarterback. Like, no questions asked. If he comes out and plays like we saw the old Russ. But we got to see it first. We got to see it. That's going to put Russ squarely in tier 5, though. Russell Wilson joining Matthew Stafford and Jordan Love down in tier 5. Nate, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on and help us out making these QB tier lists today.
Oh, man. Thank you guys for having me. You know, I'm always happy to jump on with you guys.
It is truly always a pleasure getting to hang out with you. And everybody watching, if you haven't gotten enough Nate yet, which I know you haven't, make sure you go over to Twitter and follow him at Nate Marcum and check out the work they're doing over at Fantasy in Frames. And truly, we've brought it up a couple times now. If you are in those IDP leagues, you got to be following Nate over there. He's got the information. He's the top 5 IDP ranker on Fantasy Pros, so you know you're getting good advice from him. After you do that, guys, if you have not had enough fantasy football talk today, we got some great news because here on Better Sports Network, Thursdays are for fantasy football. Coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern time, you've got the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show with Eric Balkman of the FFPC. Then at 9 p.m. Eastern time, we got Dynasty Nerds with Garrett Price and the Nerd Herd. So you're going to get some more of those rookie rankings, projections, draft strategies, and more starting tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Thursdays are for fantasy football here. And Fridays, I don't know. We'll figure out what they're for tomorrow.
Curling.
Guys, Fridays are for curling. That's going to be it for us today, though. Thank you again to Nate. Thank you to everybody in the chat who came and hung out with us. We will see everybody bright and early tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Until then, though, we are out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday.
Mwah.